Gabriela, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Gabriela, can you tell us how this idea of you illustrating the cover of this booklet started? How did they contact you? What it took for you to take this job?
So originally, Adam Carr, who's part of the Milwaukee Neighborhood News Service, contacted me to do it. Him, as well as his colleague, Sharon McGowan, they both really responded to my artwork. I've been working within the Milwaukee community for a few years now, so my artwork has been floating around. I was very, very happy when they asked me and immediately said yes about the project. They felt like my type of work that I do my work is, I tell a story with it, so they felt like it was a good fit for this collection of stories that they were publishing.
Gabriela, the Latino community has a deep African roots.
Yes.
In itself.
Yes.
But the story of the African American community in the United States is very specific. How did you relate to this movement to create this front and back cover of this long march to freedom?
Well, I especially related to this because I grew up in Milwaukee. I've lived on all sides. My mom lives on the northwest side, my dad lives on the south side. So I grew up going to all these different neighborhoods, and while I was in a very diverse, and I was surrounded by diverse people, you could see the segregation that still exists in Milwaukee. So I knew that the roots and history of Milwaukee were still very relevant for people to know, even people that haven't been living here for that long, and especially regarding segregation and the huge issue it still is. We need to have more unity and community organizing and really celebrate the diversity that Milwaukee has, especially with communities of color, like for any African Americans and Latinos to come together, because we share a lot of the same struggles, especially in this city.
Can you tell us about this illustration that you did for the front? If you want to start with that, what is the message that you wanted to communicate?
So the front is inspired by the youth that led the open house marches. I felt very strong about representing the fact that this was a huge movement in Milwaukee history that was started by a group of teenagers. So in the image we have 3 young people, part of the NAACP, and they're carrying their homes. Their homes represent their lives, and they're carrying them across the 16th Street Bridge where the protests happened, where they would march into the south side and the white protesters would be waiting on the other side. And in the city landscape you can see how the main figure who's holding the Freedom House, which was one of their meeting locations, a house that was actually burnt down by protesters during that time. You can see him literally stepping over the bridge, and I made the figures in illustration very large, like giants over the city landscape, to represent the importance of it and how strong and brave they were to be able to lead this movement and fight the unequal housing rights of Milwaukee.
What did you decide to work on the back of the booklet?
So the back cover is actually something I was just playing around with, and then I ended up really loving the idea of this continuous pattern of these hands clasping each other, like it's neighbors reaching out to each other. One of the biggest themes in this book was all about community building, relating to each other, helping your neighbor, making everyone feel welcome and safe no matter what neighborhood of Milwaukee it is. So the emphasis on the idea of neighbor drove this illustration, and I have hands with all different skin tones because that's what Milwaukee is. We are a diverse city, and it's all in hope that we can start really diversifying our neighborhoods. and bringing people together.
Now, Gabriela, what this project means for you in your career? Some years ago, you started illustrating other organizations, including the film festival. That was the way that you were introduced to Adelante in the first story that we did about you. What this project means to you?
For my career, these types of projects I love because not only are there huge opportunities for me to do what I love, which is illustration and storytelling, but I love working within the Milwaukee community and kind of giving back to my city since I lived here and I went to school here. I graduated from MyEd here, so I'm very rooted here, and I like to be able to give back, and especially do projects with any sort of organization that helps the greater community.
Your illustrations are very, as I mentioned before, reflective of the Latino culture. You know, you can see influences like Frida Kahlo, I will say, you know, and the muralists all over the work that you do. However, from my point of view, it has the power of the youth. You know, in them. You play around with them, you create jokes, you create stories, sweet or sour, you know, but there is that sense of humor that Latinos always have, even in front of the most difficult challenges. Is this project that moves to a very specific community reflecting something else? Is it changing the essence of your style, or is it just a continuation or an evolution?
I would say it's a continuation. My work will always reflect some sort of Latinidad, but also too, my work reflects history itself and what I try to do with my artwork. Generally, like, I have done works where it's specifically a Latino audience, but for this, where it's a little more like everybody, you know, I just take the cultural cues and I take history and I want to translate it so younger people and everybody, but especially the younger audience, can relate to it and identify with it. So that's really important, especially for projects like these.
You have in your signature a lady who she's holding a chile, red chile on her hands, and then she's burning on fire. You know, fire is coming out of her lips and mouth. What can you tell us about that?
My email signature is actually funny. I was just drawing one day, and I really love spicy food. So I played around with having a woman with a jalapeno, and I have another one, a guy that I almost used too. It looks like he's holding it's a chile, but as a cell phone, and he's saying "Wow," like hot, it's hot.
Yeah, you use the double el sentido doble that the Latinos we have, and in a very particular way. Where is it coming from you in the future, Gabriela? Is something new that we don't know that you want to tell us?
Yes, I'm still doing illustration projects. I'm actually going to be involved with the Haggerty Museum, who's teaming up with the 16th Street Neighborhood Services or organization to do a public art installation on the Kinnickinnic River. So I'll be planning to see if I can have some artwork displayed there and work with the community and make some public art.
Well, those are awesome news, and we are looking forward to follow up what is coming for you. Gabriela, thank you so much. We feel so happy to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.